So turn now to page 465, and we're going to describe these quadrilaterals in as many ways as possible. So we're going to look at this first shape, and the first question I'm going to ask for you is, how many sides does this shape have for number 9? And if you say 4 sides, you automatically know that this shape is a quadrilateral. Let's look at this shape again. My next question is, we want to know if it's a parallelogram. Well, a parallelogram has 2 sets of parallel lines, and if we look at this shape, you can see this is parallel to this, and this right side is parallel to the left side. So this shape is also a parallelogram. And let's look at the next thing, a rectangle. In order for this shape to be a rectangle, it has to have 2 sets of parallel lines. This set is parallel to here, and this side is parallel to here. So it is a rectangle. And the last one, square. Is this figure a square? A square has 4 sides that are equal. So number 9 is not a square because you can tell that the top and the bottom are longer than the left side and the right side. Okay, let's look at number 10. So once again, we're going to go through each of these questions to figure out, is it a quadrilateral? Is it a parallelogram? Is it a rectangle? Is it a square? So, step by step. Number 1, quadrilateral. Well, in order for it to be a quadrilateral, it has to have 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know this shape is, in fact, a quadrilateral. Okay, here's our next question. Is it a parallelogram? In order for it to be a parallelogram, it has to have 2 sets of parallel lines. So let's take a look. I'm going to do this in green. 2 sets of parallel lines, that means the lines will never cross each other. It doesn't even have 1 set, so it is not a parallelogram. I'm not writing that down. Is it a rectangle? Does it have 2 sets of sides that are equal? Does it have right angles? No, it does not, so it cannot be a rectangle. And is it a square? Well, I think you can tell by looking at it, it is not a square. So let's go to number 11. So once again, we're going to go through each question. Question number 1, is it a quadrilateral? Well, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, so yes, it is a quadrilateral. Okay, question 2, is it a parallelogram? A parallelogram has to have 2 sets of parallel lines. So let's see, the left side is parallel to the right, the top is parallel to the bottom. So here's set 1, here's your second set. So yes, it is a parallelogram. Notice I'm going through each question very carefully. Number 3, is it a rectangle? Well, does it have 2 sets of parallel lines? Does it have right angles? Yes, it has the 4 right angles. So yes, it is in fact a rectangle. And you may have already figured out that yes, it is a square. And our last shape. First question, is it a quadrilateral? Well, let's take a look here. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, so it's a quadrilateral. Question 2, is it a parallelogram? Parallelograms have to have 2 sets of parallel lines. So 1, here's your first set. There's 1 set of parallel lines. Here is your second set. So yes, it is a parallelogram. Is it a rectangle? A rectangle must have a right angle, and you can see this is not a right angle. Up here in number 11, that is a right angle. So it's not a rectangle. And a square must have right angles, so it is not a square. So it says to draw these two trapezoids. Let's just look at these two trapezoids. It says these are examples of trapezoids. Why are these trapezoids quadrilaterals? Well, they're quadrilaterals because they have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Trapezoid F has 2 right angles, so let's take a look at that. Right angle 1, right angle 2. Can you call this trapezoid a rectangle? And the answer is no, you cannot, because you have to have, so it's no, because you have to have 4 right angles. 2 is not enough. And trapezoid G has 1 pair of parallel lines. Can you call this trapezoid a parallelogram? No, because a parallelogram has to have 2 sets of parallel lines. So it has 1 set right there, but you can see right here, eventually these 2 are going to cross. So no, it needs 2 sets of parallel lines. Parallel lines. That's my symbol for parallel. Okay, moving on. So you need to know that a trapezoid is a quadrilateral, but it has 1 pair or 1 set of parallel opposite sides. So here it is, 1 set of parallel lines. So let's talk about trapezoids. The quadrilaterals below are trapezoids. So you can see the first, the second, and the third. And then it asks you, write what you know about the opposite sides of a trapezoid. And when it comes to trapezoids, you need to have, I'm going to put this in red, you need to have 1 set of parallel lines. So let's see, where is our 1 set of parallel lines? Here's the first set. Set means there's 2 lines that are parallel. Here is your second 1 set of parallel lines and 1 set of parallel lines. And number 14, it says circle the quadrilaterals that are trapezoids. So they're all quadrilaterals because they're 4-sided shapes. So remember, a quadrilateral is a 4-sided shape. A trapezoid is also a 4-sided shape, but it has to have 1 set of parallel lines. So let's find 1 set. Let's see, do these? Nope. Eventually those 2 sides are going to cross. What about this side and this side? They're not, that one's not parallel. So definitely W is not a trapezoid. Let's look at this one. Does this one have 1 set? Well, those will eventually cross, but let's look at the top and the bottom. Those are parallel. So we can definitely circle X. X is definitely a trapezoid. What about Y? Let's see. These sides are parallel, and these sides are parallel. So this is actually a parallelogram. It is not a trapezoid, because remember, a trapezoid has to have 1 set of parallel lines. Let's look at Z. Let's see. This side and this side will eventually cross up here. Let's look at the top and the bottom. Yep, Z. Z is definitely, so we know that X and Z are quadrilaterals that are trapezoids. And how do we know? Well, we know that, it says explain why the others are not. Okay, So W is not because it doesn't have any parallel lines. And Y is not a trapezoid because it has two sets and you only need one. And hopefully you remember that I'm using this symbol right here to show that means parallel. Okay, so I think that is all. I do have one more page here, and if you want to freeze your screen and take a look at this page with all the attributes, I know it's a little bit blurry, but it's kind of a little cheat sheet for all the attributes of a quadrilateral. So you can definitely use this to help you in the future with making sure you understand quadrilaterals. So now it's time to go to the quiz called 7.6. If you haven't watched the video, you can do that as well.